Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at patreon.com/inspired disorder.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Swipe up 157. This is the show where I take some posts that I've seen on Instagram and I share them with you while also giving you my opinion on those posts. So let's get into it, shall we? Starting off with something that's not surprising, but also pretty horrible, pretty, just disgusting. Police reform is officially dead in Congress. Despite Democrats having a majority in Congress and the House and the presidency, nothing is getting done. Very little is getting done, I should say. Just this filibuster bullshit is it's horrible when everybody knows the solution and yet nobody at the same time is willing to take action on that solution to just end the filibuster and let's start taking advantage of the fact that the Democrats have control over two branches of the government. Now, granted, the conservative Supreme Court may try and do some fuckery, but this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. We've seen what a president can do. Right? We saw 4 years of Trump plus a year before and almost a year after. Thankfully, Twitter banned him. Seriously, that is the best thing to ever happen is Twitter getting rid of that dude. Now it's nobody needs to hear what that crazy man has to say. But we saw what he did. We saw how much destruction he could cause. And now we have people that just barely want to do their shit. It is frustrating. But anyway, so whatever. Police reform, not surprising. Not surprising that police reform. I mean, how many lobbyists are police unions? I mean, how much money is just flooded into that organization that, in my opinion, mostly causes the public harm. They are, in my opinion, the police are, in my opinion, domestic terrorists. They're a government-funded terrorist organization. They murder innocent citizens. Anybody they murder is an innocent citizen because they have not been tried in a court of law. It is not the job or duty of police officers to execute humans on the street. Murder is illegal, and they don't pay the price. Rarely do they pay the price. It has to be a global event like George Floyd for a cop to be accused of his crimes and pay the penalties of those crimes. Breonna Taylor's killers, they got unpaid suspension. Ridiculous. Disgusting. So much. I don't want to follow this stuff. But I want to see positive change in this world. But then you constantly see bullshit like this, where it's just the inaction of these politicians, just the lack of testicle fortitude. Aside from a few, you see AOC. She's trying to do shit. All of her people. Omari, I think, is one of them. There are a group in there that actually give a fuck. Bernie Sanders. A very small amount that actually give a fuck. The rest of them The rest of them are doing the bare minimum to get away with not having to do anything. It is ridiculous. So the fact that police reform, like how easy, like we see examples on a daily basis of police harassing citizens for no reason. For no reason. Trying to cage them for no reason. No crimes committed, nothing's happening. It's just a person existing in front of a cop. Daily basis. And then we see, and then of course, they're doing things where it's like they don't have to release, they can wait 2 months to release the body cam footage, or body cam footage just disappears. Like they get away with such fuckery. And Congress is okay with it. If it's global news, riots in every street, protests globally, then they'll pretend to do shit for a few months till things calm down, and then it's business as usual. Let the police continue terrorizing the citizens of this country. A little over 4 years ago, I started The Many Faces. It's an ongoing series of abstract ink portraits. Each piece is improvised. Each piece is released daily. Start collecting now. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/TMF. That stands for The Many Faces. And save yourself 25% when you use coupon code RTS. That stands for The Ray Taylor Show, because that's what you're listening to, and I love you. So I want you to save 25% when you use that coupon code. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/TMF and use coupon code RTS to save 25% when you start collecting one of over 1,600 original ink paintings. By myself, I made them. Support me. I love you. Back to the show. Disgusting. Here's another example. Moving on. Another example of how just utterly disgusting, inhuman, immoral, just complete trash of humans. These fucking border patrol on their horses, whipping people. Visually, it got a lot of attention. It's not enough for brown people. Like if it was just, if this was just another story about border patrol on horses whipping brown people, nobody would have given a fuck. That's like standard. Like every race that's not Mexican is like, it's not a big deal. But a bunch of Haitians, everybody's angry. I'm angry. I'm angry before it was Haitians. It's absolutely disgusting. Like, where is the humanity? What are we doing here? How many of these fucking fake ass supposed Christians out there have like complete bankrupt in morality? Humanity is just non-existent unless you have a low melanin content in your skin. Any amount of melanin in your skin, and none of the Christian patronage rules of caring apply. It is disgusting. This took place in Texas, which the politics in Texas are pretty high level, inhuman, immoral, like disguised as being beneficial, disguised as being a caring law, a caring thing that they're doing to better humanity. That's how they frame it. That's how they sell it. But the reality is there's zero humanity in the politics of Texas. So the border patrol in Texas being inhuman to human beings who are seeking safety because their country got destroyed, right? Like if if fucking Washington State were destroyed, volcano, Mount St. Helens, whatever dormant volcano is up there, right? Let's say that happened, and you have a bunch of people from Washington State, a bunch of people from Seattle, refugees from Seattle or wherever. They're cut off. They can't go. They have to go into Canada, right? And imagine seeing Canadian Mounties on their horses whipping people from Seattle. That would be outrageous. But when it involves people that have any kind of melanin content in their skin, it's outrageous. But it's like that's happening it should be constant outrage. And the only fix that they did, is like, oh, we're not going to use horses anymore. We're just going to change the way it looks. We're not going to change anything systematically. We're not going to adjust any laws. We're not going to. There's no say like of physical violence. We're just going to get rid of the horses. That's not the issue. Wasn't the horses? This isn't like a PETA issue. This is a humanity issue where you have one human like dehumanizing another person by whipping them like cattle. Disgusting. Anybody that approves of this is like has no humanity. Just a complete lack of morality, a complete lack of humanity. They're just dead inside, and they are racist as fuck. Because, like I said, those people, if they saw, if the same thing happened to somebody like Seattle had to escape and go into Canada, and you saw Canadian Mounties whipping them like cattle, all of these racist assholes that approve of what's happening in Texas would be outraged. Because they're only outraged when it affects them or other white people. Like this mask bullshit. Although a lot of those people, that's just an education. I don't know. I don't even want to get into that. We'll get into that later. But this is disgusting. And nothing's going to change except for they're not going to use horses. Right? Maybe they'll give them ATVs. Maybe they'll give them the vehicles used in Jurassic Park 2, where they're like, or the most recent, where they're like hunting dinosaurs. They'll give them like modified, like they'll spend $1 billion on a contract for people to make custom buggies for the Border Patrol to dehumanize anybody that crosses the border with an excess of melanin in their skin. Like that's probably what'll happen. Like somebody, we're not going to do horses, so we're going to put all this money into, we're going to give somebody a contract to make vehicles to help wrangle human beings like cattle. Disgusting. But, I guess the positive is that this woke a lot of people up who may have not cared about what happened at the border, or they do, but care a lot more once they see people that look like them trying to get in and being treated like they're being treated. I mean, it's like, I'm sure there's probably so many instances of Mexicans and just people from South America being whipped and beaten by horse-mounted terrorists with whips, and nobody batted an eye. It's like, well, it's bad, but then you see a bunch of black people do it, and it's way worse, and it's the same. It's always been way worse. It's inhuman. It's disgusting. Moving on to something that is very human, and that's movies. Movies are human. And this movie, Knives Out, specifically, directed by Rian Johnson, my favorite Rian Johnson film. Knives Out 2, I heard, just finished production, I think, a week or two ago. Fairly recently, anyway. So I'm looking forward to that one, the return of Benoit Blanc. But this one, there's a specific rule that Apple has where they do not allow characters in movies who are bad guys, villains, to carry iPhones. So in Knives Out 2019, The murderer never holds an iPhone, while most of the innocent characters do. This is because Apple has a policy where bad guys are not allowed to use their products. So yeah, that's in a way would have been a little tell if you knew that policy. That's interesting policy. Especially, I mean, a lot of movies like to use iPhones. I mean, it's just a great phone. But yeah, interesting stuff. It's that hopefully is not a spoiler for the sequel. I hope that I mean, in this one it says not every character had an iPhone that wasn't, but for sure the ones that don't have, if somebody doesn't have an iPhone, Ryan Johnson, did you know this rule? Did you figure this into the algorithm for the whodunit? I hope you did. Or I hope you break the rule. Anyway, let's move on to last but not least, it's a victory. USA. More people have died during this pandemic in the United States versus the 1918 influenza pandemic. Estimates. A lot of people love to argue about the numbers. Oh, they're faking the numbers. I mean, they could fake the numbers in both directions. You know, there's shown to be a lot of anti-vax, anti-mask people that work in hospitals. A lot of registered nurses don't believe in science, which goes to show how much training you need to be, what kind of tests you need to work in medicine. Is believing in science is not part of the prerequisite. It's not like it's a faith. It's like it's proved. Like, you should know by that time, you should understand how science works and know that everything within the ideals of science are things and ideas that have been proven and tested and repeated. It's not just like an idea, a fictional book of writings that you just have to have faith in. But yeah, so more people have died in this pandemic than the OG pandemic in 1918. I wonder if that's what contributed to the financial crash. What was that called? They have like so many names. Depression, the Great Depression, right? I'm horrible at history, but whatever. Thankfully, there's Instagram posts that remind me of history. History that people want to erase in hopes that they can repeat it. I'm sure. They want to turn back time. But yeah, so an estimated 675,000 are the death count as of this for the United States. We're 18 months in, which if you watch my show, see, we're on episode 80 of Rona Days, so 80 weeks. I don't think I missed a week. But yeah. Anyway, that's it. Let me do some shout-outs and we'll get out of here. How about that? Shout out to Vice News. Shout out to Movie Facts, which I think is a podcast. Go subscribe. I haven't heard the podcast, but I love their Instagram posts. I love movies. I love movie trivia. And whenever I see something interesting that they post, or there's other movie Instagram feeds I follow. Anyway, shout out to Movie Facts. And also shout out ABC News. But most important, shout out to you. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on IGTV, YouTube, and everywhere else podcasts are found. Binge the full week ad-free over at patreon.com/Inspired Disorder. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace.